Well, happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to In the Kitchen with Chef Paul. I'm your host, Mark Curtis. The man to my left really needs no introduction. The James Beard award-winning chef from 1010 Bridge here in Charleston, West Virginia, Chef Paul Smith. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
Happy holidays, and this is Merry Christmas to you, and Happy Hanukkah, and all the other holidays going on. We got New Year's, we got Thanksgiving. I mean, this is the time of the year where everything converges, and it's so much fun, and the best part about it is to have a good meal with your family and friends.
We're going to start our holiday meal with what will be the star of the show, a perfectly cooked prime rib roast complete with an herb-crusted rub. While the roast is in the oven, we'll craft a blueberry lemonade mocktail, learning the tricks of 1010's masterful bartenders. From there, we'll move on to an easy-to-assemble appetizer, honey and goat cheese-filled strawberries. Next up, dessert. We'll teach you how to make a pear tart cheesecake that will satisfy the whole family's sweet tooth. And then we'll round out our meal with a deliciously delectable Yorkshire pudding. So, who is Chef Paul Smith and why is he preparing our holiday meal? Chef Paul is a West Virginia native who this year on June 10th became the first chef in state history to be named a James Beard Award winner at the National Awards Ceremony in Chicago. The James Beard Awards for culinary arts are the equivalent of winning an Academy Award in the movie industry. It is a huge deal. The James Beard Award is the Oscar for food. Paul was in Chicago with his wife Carrie as more than 1,000 people cheered on at a watch party in Charleston's Capitol Market.
Paul Smith.
Paul Smith was born in Charleston to a tight-knit family and graduated from Catholic high school. He developed a love for cooking at an early age with his parents and grandparents. That passion would lead to his formal training at the famed Culinary Institute of America in California's Napa Valley. He would then work in the nation's most storied culinary scenes, including Napa, Asheville, North Carolina, South Florida, and New York City. But Chef Paul's West Virginia roots eventually called him home. He opened several popular restaurants, including The Pitch, a sports-themed venue at the Shawnee Sports Complex near Dunbar. Along the way, Paul cooked with legendary chefs such as Otis Lowry of Charleston's famed Lowry's Restaurant. Otis served as chef to 3 West Virginia governors in the mansion and taught Paul Smith very well. Chef Paul has made it his goal to give back to his community with events such as the free monthly AARP cooking classes at Capitol Market. He's also leading an effort to teach culinary arts to people recovering from substance use disorder and get them jobs. Paul founded 1010 Bridge, his signature restaurant, to much acclaim. This year, it led a group of Charleston area restaurants in raising money for restaurants in Asheville, North Carolina, devastated by Hurricane Helene. For all these accomplishments, Chef Paul was honored with the rarely given Distinguished West Virginian Award by Governor Jim Justice and Baby Dog.
That's you right there.
This is a popular holiday meal, the prime rib roast. This is one of my favorites. How did this become such a popular holiday meal? I think people think of the holidays and everybody goes, oh, we're going to get a turkey and we're going to stuff it and have all the side dishes, but this is a real crowd
pleaser. It's a non-traditional, but I think too, I mean, it obviously feeds a lot of people. It's fairly easy because you can rub it, set it in, and forget it for a couple of hours and go have your, holiday libation. But really, it's probably, my wife doesn't like turkey. And so just a substitute for turkey. And it might be because whoever always made the turkey a little bit dry.
Now that we know the cut of prime rib we are working with, it's time to make a marinated rub to put on our roast. After the break, we'll break down the recipe to make an herb-crusted rub that will leave your family wanting more. Stay with us here on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, Holiday Edition.
And welcome back to In the Kitchen with Chef Paul here at Tim Hogan's Design Gallery in Kanawha City, Charleston. We are now going to put the rub on the beef roast.
We're doing the rub.
What's in the rub?
What's in the rub? So we've got herbs. So first is fresh rosemary.
Oh, love it.
Wonderful. You want to do herbs that aren't going to get lost. Fresh thyme, again, super aromatic. We've got our chopped garlic. We've got salt, a lot of salt. You think about how big this piece of meat is. We got 14, 16 pounds right here. So you want to make sure it's a little bit more salty than you normally would. We're doing a little bit of cracked black pepper, horseradish.
Oh, my
So
favorite.
there you go. Don't get too close to that one. Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire.
And oil. So again,
Olive oil?
olive oil,
Okay.
canola oil, any oil really that you want. I wouldn't use your fancy Villa di Trapano olive oil because, you know, obviously it's going to go all over this. But so when you do this, you want to make sure you do the fat cap up. That
Okay.
way the fat renders down around everything. So we're just mixing this up here.
I want to mention that we're going to post all of the recipes on our website for this TV station because, you know, there's different precise
Yeah,
amounts. And we
absolutely.
won't let
Gonna
folks
give
know
away all my secrets,
they
huh?
could- yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pour this on, and if you want to rub it in generously with your hands, get all that nice goodness out of there.
So you don't have to be a licensed massage therapist to
It
do
helps.
this, right?
It helps.
Oh, I love doing this. This is one of my favorite things is making either a dry rub for a roast or a rack of ribs or a wet rub.
And you can do this ahead of time.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do this the day before, you can do this. You could set it in your refrigerator if your refrigerator obviously has a little bit more room. This is something that you can prep. This is the great thing about this prime rib is you can get everything done ahead of time, throw it in when, you know, a couple of hours before your guests get here. This is probably going to take, I'd say 4 or 5 hours, depending on your convection or not in the oven. But how great is that?
And you can sear it at a high temperature when
can.
you first put it in, or do the reverse sear and do the high temperature
Yep.
at the end because that makes the crust and helps seal in all the juices.
Absolutely. So a lot of what we'll do is called high heat, low heat. So 450, get that sear on it, then turn it down to 300. What the recipe that we're going to do with this is kind of 350 just right through, and eventually that Maillard reaction will create that nice crust on the top. I think the key and what we'll see when we bring it out, if you remember nothing else from this, let it rest.
Yes.
You gotta let it
Don't
rest.
cut into it.
Don't cut into it because all those water molecules are running around in there. You want to make sure you let it rest for, I'd say 10, 15, 20 minutes. Also, have a glass of wine. Maybe whatever it takes. You know, maybe you drink wine maybe a little faster than most, so maybe 2 glasses of wine. Who knows?
But and the one thing I like about this is that the herbs melt with the fat and go down into the bottom of the pan. We're going to make Yorkshire pudding later, and that helps the flavor. This is just
We're excited
I
about
can't wait.
When we return, we'll show you how to craft a fruity fixture at 1010. We will mix a mocktail that will pair perfectly with our holiday meal. Stay with us here on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, Holiday Edition.
Welcome back to In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, the holiday edition. The roast is in the oven, our prime rib roast, which is going to be fabulous. Time to do something festive. Holidays are festive. Why not some festive drinks? Paul, you're going to make a mocktail for
I am.
us.
I'm going to make a mocktail for us. So we've got a lemon blueberry mocktail. So we're going to start out with fresh lemon juice. Go ahead and put those right in. We're going to do directly into our shaker here.
I don't think there's any better juice than fresh lemon
So
juice.
great,
Oh,
really is.
takes me back to the state fair and the homemade
Yeah.
lemonade they make.
That's right. along with those tornado fries.
Oh yeah.
Great.
Too bad this is not smell-o-vision. The lemon juice, the aroma from the lemons is
It's
just
so great.
amazing.
Now, make sure you always add ice to the shaker. I've got a little bit more lemon juice here, just fresh squeezed lemon juice. We do this probably 50 of them a day. And then, so what I'm gonna do now is add a little bit of our Stella's, this is a blueberry balsamic.
I never heard of that.
Isn't it great?
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
so Derek, our bartender, and Josiah and Taylor, they use a lot of these. So it adds a little bit of that bite that you are missing when you don't add the alcohol to it. So it kind of mimics a little bit of that back of the palate mouthfeel. We're gonna put just a little bit in. There are all kinds of this. So Stella's is down on Hale Street. Gonna add that, do just a touch, and then I'm gonna shake this up. I'm not, do the crazy fancy bartender stuff, but
Yeah, don't
shake
turn it
over
into a
my hand
dance.
because I'll probably spill it everywhere. And then we're just gonna pour it. So we're gonna pour this into our Collins glass here. So we'll just try to pour that. See how it's got that little bit different color in there?
kinda
Now
golden.
that's a lot of, the balsamic adds a little bit of sweetness to it. The lemon obviously has a little bit of bite to it. I'm gonna go ahead and add one of our fancy ice cubes.
Frozen
so
ice cube,
this is a simple syrup lemon ice cube. So again, a little bit more sweet, a little herb, and then I'm gonna top it off with a little Pellegrino, just for that effervescence.
And that's the mocktail?
That's the mocktail. You can drip a little bit of this right on the top. I like to kind of, so you get that cascading look. Now you could add a little, this is our Ritual Zero Proof Gin alternative.
So it's non-alcoholic.
Non-alcoholic. Obviously bitters, you could put a bitter in there. Now that does have a little bit of alcohol in it. So, if you're really watching, or, if you don't drink like me, I love a bitter. So if I'm gonna add something like that, I might add a little bit of this Phony Negroni. It could add a little non-alcoholic bitter.
And if you wanted to turn this into a cocktail, and you can, I would think rum would be good in there, vodka, what else?
Rum, vodka, obviously gin. I mean, really anything. Yeah, you could add bourbon to this if you like that. It would almost be like a whiskey sour.
Yeah, I think it's important that we mentioned it and prepared it as a mocktail because,
Really?
Look, cocktails are festive around the holidays. Not
Absolutely.
everybody drinks, and some people are driving to the party and they don't want to have a drink, so a mocktail is a great substitute for a cocktail. I'm going to mention that we're going to put the recipe for the mocktail on the website for the television station. You mentioned you bartenders at 1010 Bridge. We gave them a good shout out, but
definitely.
they make some of the best cocktails and mocktails in Charleston. It's probably one of the reasons why it's a James
Absolutely.
Beard
Right,
Award
and
winner.
you just want to make sure that you're safe around the holidays.
Yeah.
I say social, not sloppy, right?
And drink in moderation if you're going to turn the mocktail into
Absolutely.
a cocktail.
Coming up, an appetizer that will appeal to the whole family. How to craft a simple yet delicious honey and goat cheese filled strawberries. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
And we welcome you back to In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, the holiday edition. I'm Mark Curtis, your host. Chef Paul Smith from 1010 Bridge here in Charleston, a James Beard award-winning chef, and we're cooking a holiday meal for you. First of all, the mocktail's great.
Isn't it great?
This is really sweet, really tasty. If I didn't know it was not a cocktail, I wouldn't. It's really tasty, very
great.
refreshing. The thing that goes good with a mocktail, though, or a cocktail, appetizers.
Appetizers.
What are we doing here, Paul?
So today we're going to hollow out a local strawberry from Vandalia Produce down in Buffalo, which are probably the best strawberries that I've had in a while, especially this time of year. We're going to take the top and the bottom off. We're going to hollow them out. Then we're going to make a honey goat cheese rosette, and then serve it with a local flower from Oma Greens. Maybe
we're
you sprinkle a little lavender on there.
Yeah, so we're stuffing the strawberries. This is great.
So we're going to go ahead and take our goat cheese, throw it right in our KitchenAid mixer here. And then you need something else besides the goat cheese because it's a little bit chalky. So we're going to do a little bit of cream cheese just to smooth it out a little bit. Always add a pinch of salt. I always add a pinch of salt to everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, sweet, savory, whatever. We've got our lavender, so a little bit of dried lavender.
Yeah, a little bit of
Lavender
lavender.
goes a long way, right? Mm-hmm. Then we have our local honey from Patriot Gardens. I'm gonna add that right in there.
Did you just call me honey?
I did. So then we're just going to, we've got that plugged in, we've got it engaged, we're gonna turn it on. So we're gonna run this, just let it cream together. We put a little bit of sugar in there if you want, but I think these strawberries are, get that? All right.
Oh, looks great.
So you could put a little bit of sugar if you want. I think with the honey and the sweetness of the strawberries, I think we're ready to go. So then what I'm going to do is we're going to clean off our paddle. Now it's worth noticing that I'm using the paddle attachment and not the whisk or obviously the hook.
Okay.
So I'll throw that back there. We're going to fill up our piping bag. You can get these at Michael's with a tip. You could really just fill them with a spoon if you wanted to. Put this in our piping bag here.
This takes me back to when I was a kid and Mom would make frosting for a cake or cupcakes, and you got to lick the beater or the bowl.
Absolutely. So we'll get that ready. Set that aside. Now we're going to prep our strawberries. So take the bottom off, because you need a flat surface. Obviously strawberries are round.
Okay.
Then you take the top off.
I'm round too, by the way.
I need a flat surface. So if you want to go ahead and maybe hollow one of these bad boys out here, just with this little Parisian scoop. But just like that.
Let me do one.
Do a couple of those. I'll get our fun little
went over to the
serving
side a
tray.
little bit, but
And that's fine.
oops.
So we've got a couple here.
When I broke the strawberry, but you know what? The
That's okay.
filling will be like a glue that holds it together.
That's absolutely right.
All right, I guess I'm not going to the Food Network anytime soon.
Perfect.
Right.
All right. So then we're going to take these and we're going to pipe a little rosette right in there. Take these, put them on our fun little serving dish here. And then you could do a couple things. If you don't have your microgreens, you could maybe cock one of the strawberries to the side, the tops, so you have a little bit of green. It kind of adds a little bit of color. Or you can do your fancy little flowers from Oma Greens.
Oh, this looks amazing.
And there we go.
All right.
Those up there. You got your wonderful, make sure that you can see your flour on there. Wow, that one just wanted to get right off of there, huh?
That's all right.
That's the taster
We'll
for
fix
us
it
to
up.
eat.
All right. The stuffed strawberries, goat cheese, and cream cheese. Oh, they look delicious.
Some say this next part is the best part of any meal, dessert. Coming up, a perfect mix of sweet and tangy to create a pear tart cheesecake that will have everyone asking for another slice. We'll be right back on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul after this break.
welcome back to In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, the holiday edition. We're with Chef Paul Smith of 1010 Bridge, James Beard award-winning chef. This is the most dangerous time of a holiday meal for me because we're going to make the dessert here. I can smell the roast in the oven, and oftentimes I'm tempted to go ahead and eat the dessert before I have my
Hey,
dinner.
there's no rules at the holidays.
We're doing a pear tart cheesecake here. Take us through it.
Well, if you want to go ahead and throw your cream cheese right in. So we'll start out with the cream cheese. We have a little bit of honey. Just toss it right in there.
we go.
We've got a little bit of honey here from Patriot Gardens. So we're going to do about a tablespoon of honey. So it's not super sweet. Pears are in season right now, which is why we selected that. Do a little bit of sugar. I'm going to go ahead and throw this together. I always want to start it out a little lower. We're using the paddle attachment too, so this is what we call the creaming method. So we're creaming the sugar and the cream cheese together. I crank it up just a little bit. Get that chunk off of there. You're not doing it right unless you're getting a little bit on you.
Yeah.
So about this point here, we're going to slow her down. We're going to crack one egg. I always crack it into something else, just in case for some reason something happens to the egg. Add one egg in there. Get that rocking a little bit. Make sure everything's blended together. Obviously do a little pinch of salt. Slow it down a little bit again. Add our vanilla. You could do a little bit of lemon zest.
Sure.
Zest is where you would get a lot of that flavor, not the lemon juice you don't want. So we're gonna mix it up until we don't see any more of the little beads from the cream cheese, so it's nice and smooth. Go ahead and take this out. While we're doing this, if you want to, just let's pour this in here a little bit. We'll slice up our pears there. Heck yeah.
Am I doing this right? We're going to have to cut them in half, aren't I?
No, we're gonna have to cut them into kind of petals.
Yeah.
That way they want to add this right here.
Because you fan them out on the top.
Right. Move this back. We're just smoothing out our cream cheese, basically cheesecake mixture in there. Then we'll layer our pears in there, kind of in a shingle, and that way they're around. Now think about this when you're doing this, when you do apples or pears, when you bake them, that water's going to bake out of it. So it's not gonna look exactly like when you put it in. So go ahead, yeah. So make sure you get them, maybe get them just a little bit closer, and that way when it bakes, when they shrink up just a little bit, it's going to be okay. So I'm gonna go here. Take the core out. So you can bake this ahead of time. You can get this completely done, put it in the refrigerator. That way you're not sitting here doing this when your guests are hanging out having our mocktails, right? So this is it looks great. Local pears from Romney. We've got everything together. We're gonna go ahead, take this, put it in the oven. When it pops out, it's gonna look absolutely wonderful. Probably don't wanna put it in the same oven with the prime rib. They don't really go well together. So you would either do this ahead of time or your prime rib ahead of time.
Could you also sprinkle it with a little brown sugar and cinnamon and make
brown
a little crunch?
sugar. We're going to put a little salted caramel on it when it comes out too. So that way, yeah, you could do a little cinnamon, you could do nutmeg, whatever it is that you want.
All right, this is, like I say, I'm tempted to have the dessert before the main course, but
When we return, we'll pull the prime rib out of the oven and take a look at our finished product, how our homemade rub came together while cooking. We'll be right back on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul after this break.
And we welcome you back to In the Kitchen with Chef Paul. James Beard award-winning chef, Paul Smith from 1010 Bridge here at Charleston. I can smell the roast. It's been in there about 3 hours. We're going to bring it out in just a minute. Let's talk about the cutting board for a second. This is a specially kept cutting board. Why is this so important?
So this has the channel in it. So, you know, if you can get a cutting board, especially with something like this, that you're going to have a little bit of that juice run out, you want it to get caught in this channel versus running out. Now, if you don't have one, then you want to maybe put a little bit of like a rolled up towel maybe around the cutting board to kind of catch those. That way it just doesn't run out. Now, we let it rest, or we will let it rest. So we will try to combat that a little bit. But typically, if we cook it right, there will be a little bit of juice that comes out.
The juices that come in the channel, the other thing is to keep the kitchen clean. The other method, though, is use it for gravies or sauces. You can pour that in there.
Or sauces, or maybe have a piece of bread and just maybe while you're cutting, I don't know. It just depends.
Along with your mocktail or glass of wine.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, the moment has come. Let's take the roast out of the oven and get a look at it. Boy, it smells good in here.
It smells great. And how great is this kitchen?
Oh, my Lord.
Wonderful.
Oh, look at the crust on that.
So we've got the herb crust. You can see that right there. You see the herbs. You know, it's okay if it's a little bit dark. You want that, a little bit of that Maillard browning on there. What we're going to do now, we'll let it rest.
For 10 minutes.
At least 10 minutes.
Maybe 15.
Maybe
Sure.
15. We're going to pull it over to our cutting board. And then, what do we do with the...
Oh, the pan drippings and the fat that is, this is
right. So you've got the crust. We're talking about, you know, you've got the end cuts.
That's for me.
That's for you. So we're going to go ahead. So if you take the temperature on this, you want to take it with the thermometer right in the middle.
Okay.
And about halfway down. That way you know right in the middle what that temp is. Maybe 130, 135, depending on what your desired temperature is. Remember, it's going to be a little bit more done on the outsides,
right.
A little less done on the inside. So I'm just going to cut it right down the middle.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Sure. Oh, that's perfect. Nice and pink.
Nice and pink. Now you could cut this, see how this fat cap is right here? You probably want to trim that off just a little bit right before you serve it.
Okay.
You could also render that down, use it for our Yorkshire puddings. That's probably what we'll do today.
Oh, this is something else.
I'm gonna go ahead and...
So a medium rare, a good medium rare would be about 130, 135
about
degrees.
that, yep. And so normally what I would do is you're gonna kind of do your king cut here. I mean, that right there is what you're looking for. And then, you know, if you have 25 or 30 people, you shave it. Cut it a little thinner. You know, you're gonna go a little, make sure your knife is number one, sharp. Number two is long enough to get through it.
All right, well, a good prime rib roast always is great, accompanied by Yorkshire pudding, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna cook that up next.
Every meal needs a side. What better dish to have with a prime rib than savory Yorkshire pudding? Known for being a versatile food that can be served many ways, how this award-winning chef puts his own spin on this classic pastry. We'll be right back on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, Holiday Edition.
And thanks for joining us on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, the holiday edition. This is my favorite part of the meal.
Mine too.
We're going to make Yorkshire pudding. Tell us about what we're going to see here, Paul.
So this is pretty easy. So what we've done is we've taken all of that beef fat that came off of the prime rib, the drippings, all that goodness, we've put them in muffin tins. So you can do it in a muffin tin, you could do it in a casserole dish. You need to get that fat super hot.
Yeah.
So we've put that fat in this wonderful KitchenAid oven here at Tim Hogan's. We're gonna crack some eggs right into the bowl. Recipe is going to be online.
Yeah, the website for this TV station will have the recipes, and it'll help you along. This is relatively easy.
Yep. So you want to always put your eggs in first. That way you make sure you get them completely mixed up. Because if you put your milk and your eggs together, it takes about twice as long. We're going to do a little bit of salt. We're going to add our milk, about a pint
Okay.
of milk there. Get that completely mixed up. We're going to add our flour.
How much flour
easy.
is it?
Go ahead. Go ahead with it. I'll
Slowly pull it in. You just don't dump it in, right?
Yep. Slowly pour it in. Just kind of mix it up. Move the bowl with your other hand. You could do this in a KitchenAid mixer as well.
Sure.
With the paddle attachment. Go ahead and keep going. All right. That's good.
All right, there we go. We're
Get
all in.
all this. Basically, we're just making a nice batter, right? Get that rocking.
So you
and
don't
rolling.
need any baking soda, baking powder, anything?
No,
Just the eggs, the milk?
just the
and
eggs or the leavener in this. It's very, very, very simple.
And it pairs so well with prime
so
rib.
great.
It's just the best.
So just make sure there's no lumps. You don't want to over mix it because what you're doing right now is developing gluten. So just until it's done, I'm going to pour it right back. Let's see here. I'm going to pour it in.
So the batter should not be like me. It should not be lumpy.
Not lumpy.
Okay.
Not lumpy. I'm going to go ahead and pour it in something that's easy to manage rather than a bowl. Something maybe with a spout, you know, a quart mixing or a quart measuring cup would do really well.
Oh, I can't
Go ahead
wait.
and put that in. Let's move this out of the way.
Okay. This is really one of the most visual parts of the feast, too. Not just the gorgeousness of the prime rib, the crust, or the medium rare center that's pink. The Yorkshire
So
pudding is
great.
very visual.
So you see you got a little bit of that, the drippings in there. So now we're gonna pull out our muffin tins.
Okay.
Now you want this, now you gotta be really careful with this part,
Yeah.
right? This
Yes.
is the dangerous part. This is really hot. I will probably leave the oven open.
Okay.
Just because, you know, for safety reasons. Then we're gonna go ahead and pour just a little bit in. That fat is gonna instantly start bubbling just a little bit.
And it has so much flavor in it because the drippings from the roast are in there.
All
and
the
that just-
flavor. It's okay if you spill just a little bit. That's why we have this underpan on there. That's a big thing too. Make sure that you have a cookie sheet underneath the muffin tin. Otherwise, it's just going to be a mess, and it's a hot mess. No pun intended.
Kind of like me. All right.
Then we'll go right back in the oven.
For what temperature and how long?
I like to do this one a little hotter, about 375, 400 degrees. And then you'll look at it and they'll pop up and then kind of fall in the middle, and that's where all the goodness is. So I'd say 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. It's called Yorkshire pudding, but many people refer to them as popovers because
Absolutely.
that's exactly
Yeah,
what
good
they
call.
do.
Right. All right.
Who invented this? I mean,
Some genius.
Yeah.
Probably, you know, Escoffier or one of those wonderful chefs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's what we do in the kitchen is we try to utilize things that are, you know, that we say that are sustainable. That way we lessen our carbon footprint. So this is great.
Now that our meal is complete, we'll take a look at how the different components come together to make a delicious meal, perfect for any holiday occasion. Stay with us here on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, Holiday Edition, to see how it all turned out.
And we want to welcome you back to our final segment on In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, the Holiday Edition. Boy, this has been so much fun.
Wonderful.
We have got a feast for a beast. That would include me, right? Yeah. Let's walk through the dinner. What do we do here? First, I just finished my fabulous mocktail. This was a really nice, refreshing drink for blueberry lemonade to have as we prepped all the other courses. Yep. And then, have our mocktail. We go to our appetizer. What do we have there?
So we've got our local strawberries from Vandalia. We've got a little goat cheese, honey, lavender filling, and then our fresh flowers from Oh My Greens. And we went on to do our herb crust for our prime rib.
Oh.
Finish that off. I mean, you could still smell it. It's absolutely wonderful. Then, when the prime rib came out, we used the drippings and did the Yorkshire pudding.
It is so good. It
So
is just.
great.
I'm going to sample a little bit more of this. Yeah. And then
So warm.
the finishing touch.
Right.
The nice thing about this is I like the Yorkshire pudding because the meat is juicy and it gets
Right.
on the plate and this soaks it up
it's so
and that
great.
makes this even better.
Just
So
adds
this is
it a
wonderful.
little bit better. You can rip pieces just like you did, dab it off the plate a little bit. And then we've got our pear cheesecake tart. Finish it off with a little bit of salted caramel and again our micro flowers. So this is it's a holiday meal that you can do at your house. It seems daunting, but it wasn't too bad, I don't think.
No, a lot of it you could prep in advance too. The one thing I want to mention is all of these recipes will be on our TV station website and also on Paul's website at 1010bridge.com. And I think, if anything else, we demystified holiday cooking a bit. Sometimes people think it's so daunting. There's so much work to do. It's backbreaking. But I think we pace this well. The roast in the oven for 3 hours all by itself.
Not bad.
You just set it and forget it, as that guy used to say.
Absolutely, yeah. And then have a couple mocktails.
Yeah, the mocktails were delicious. Blueberry lemonade mocktail. And again, we told folks how to, if you want to convert it to a cocktail, maybe a little rum in there or vodka or gin would make, because some folks prefer it that way and others like the mocktail. So prime rib is one of my favorite things in the world to eat. And I think the thing that's neat about this is, depending on where you slice it, the more well-done pieces are the end cuts. And then in the middle, it's about 135 degrees. Remember that if you're using a meat thermometer.
Yeah.
And that's a nice pink medium rare. And the other nice thing about prime rib, no family's probably going to eat all of this on a holiday. You thin slice it the next day and make sandwiches. It's so
Leftovers are great.
good. You can even you cut the Yorkshire pudding in half, make a little sandwich.
See,
This is a
now
lot
you're
of fun.
making menus up for me. I like it.
Yeah, listen, this is a terrific setup here. We want to thank the folks at Tim Hogan's Design Gallery in the Kanawha City section of the city of Charleston. What a wonderful host they were. Great kitchen design and setup, and it's made it so easy and so much fun. And so we want to thank them as well. And again, I want to mention your websites for folks that want the recipe. 1010bridge.com, our TV station website, will have that as well. All the recipes, from the strawberries to the tart with the pears and the cheesecake and the whole prime rib roast and the Yorkshire pudding and the mocktails. Oh my God. So this has been a wonderful thing. We want to thank you for joining us. We want to wish you the happiest and safest of holidays. Enjoy your family and friends. This has been In the Kitchen with Chef Paul, the holiday edition. We thank you and we thank Chef Paul.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you so much
Happy
for having me.
holidays, my friend.